Hi everyone, it's Jody. Today's Ask Me Anything is from an anonymous person who didn't put their name on there, and that's fine because that's all part of it. You can either put your name or you don't have to put your name. So this person has written in about blogging, and the reason I'm jumping forward to this one is because tomorrow morning I have a live blogging Q&A in one of my Facebook groups. I'll put the link to that in the comments just in case anyone wants to join that. So this person said, I must admit when I read this I could feel myself feeling a little bit, oh no. So I've got my notes in front of me, so forgive me for the paper. This person says, I have never read a blog. I don't know anyone who does. Blogging is dead. It is so 10 years ago. Wouldn't it be more useful to have a podcast? Okay, so at first I felt quite upset about this question because I love blogging. I read lots of blogs. I know people who write blogs, they love blogs. So then I thought, oh, is it a generation thing? And well, maybe it is, but then, you know, it is still very much working for me in my practice. So I went off sort of searching for evidence to see whether blogging was still current, and I'm going to answer that for you here today. So I've had a highly successful blog for about 10 years, and my podcast I've had for 2 years, lots of like leaders in the field in terms of eating disorder treatment. And I've got to say, my blogs still bring in more people than my podcast. So for me, blogging, although both bring in a lot of traffic, blogging still outweighs the podcast. Now, you could say that that's because it's 10 years old versus 2 years old. But actually, on my website where I have a podcast, I also have a blog. And those blogs bring in more traffic than the podcast does. So blogging is without a doubt easier. It's cheaper. My podcast costs me about $80 to $120 a week. And that is mostly in editing. And when you do an hour-long podcast with an interview, you're not on script like you would if you were doing your own sort of Q&A on a podcast. So if you were just reading off a script, you might not have to spend so much on editing. But when you're interviewing other people and their doorbell goes, the dog barks, someone starts a leaf blower outside, or you basically just fumble over your words, there's always going to be a lot more editing there and a lot more cost. So for me, the blog is also something you can do at the beginning of your practice that is not going to cost you a lot of money apart from time and website development. Okay. Also, people don't, if I'm listening to a podcast, I tend to listen in the car or while I'm walking. I don't then stand there and Google the show notes, which is, you know, occasionally if someone's giving away a freebie, I might visit the show notes, but not very often. And so the show notes, just so you know, are actually a blog as well. They're just called show notes, that's all. But juicy blogs tend to bring in more than show notes do for my website anyway. So here are some of the reasons that I think blogging is SEO gold. So it provides a resource center when potential clients land on your website. So, and it also provides a resource center for existing clients. Like I know if we've been talking about something in therapy, and there's, you know, there's themes that come up again and again and again. If I've blogged about it, I'd rather send my client to something that's speaking to them about the way that we're working together on my own website, rather than sending them to someone else, which, you know, might fit with what we're doing, but half the time it doesn't. So for me, much easier to send to your own website. It'll bring people to your website. And like I said, podcasts tend to people listen to, whereas a blog, if you post a blog on social media, it will then bring the person to your website. I just feel a blog is a lot richer as well. So if you think about, you can use beautiful images, you can link to previous blog posts, which is great because it keeps people on your website longer. You can use embed videos, so you can make your own videos, like this video I could embed on there, or I can embed other people's videos, which is what I've done many, many times on my blogs. So Brené Brown videos, Marion Woodman, the one of the, the Wonder Woman pose, basically anything I think is going to be useful for my client niche. I've embedded in there, and it just, when people land, it's like this beautiful resource center of lots of juicy information. So also you can, do movie reviews and all sorts of things on there. So you can be really creative. Podcasts, absolutely you can do those things, but you don't have that added visual aspect that you would have, that you don't have that on a podcast, basically. So, okay, so to the person who sent this in, you might not read blogs, but many, many people do. Millions and millions and millions of people do. I still get all my recipes from blogs. If there's anything I need to know about therapy, I will Google it. If I'm when I look for a therapist myself, I went searching online. So you're not going to tend to find people on look, you do find therapists on podcasts, of course you do. Typically by the time people get to podcast stage, we're usually full though. So I think blogging's still a much better way to reach out to the public in that respect. So, but nevertheless, I did some research to find out, is blogging dead in 2022? And these were the responses I got. No, blogging is not dead in 2022. It will stay relevant for some time. Blogs are very powerful and they are SEO gold, especially when speaking to your ideal client niche and when using keywords throughout. So you don't want to use too many, you don't want to overpopulate it with keywords. And actually, if you have the Yoast plugin, which is a SEO plugin, it will tell you when you've used too many. Like one I did yesterday, for example, my show notes yesterday, actually, it said, you've only got 121 words and you've used complex trauma 16 times. So it thinks you're being dodgy by putting complex trauma in there too many times. So an app like that is really good to help you with that. The general consensus is that readers generally trust what they read in blogs. The other thing, the most important asset you own, I think, apart from if you own your own therapy room and your training, is your website. Because, I've seen people who have had massive Instagram accounts, massive Facebook groups, and they've been locked out of them. And they can't get back to access their stuff. They can't get back to access their followers. And typically when they've had to rebuild, it has never been as successful as that original one because they started it so many years ago. So yes, very useful to post your blogs on social media, but your first port of call should be creating content for your website, in my opinion. Okay. So the other thing is, some people said in response to this question somewhere else that I saw it, that you're better off guest posting other places. Well, that's true at one level. It is great to guest post, but you don't own that other person's website. So I know the other day when I was looking for, I guest posted on Psych Central about 8-9 years ago about toxic relationships. When I went back, because I'm about to update my own website, and I was just making sure all the links worked, the post has been deleted. So I wasn't notified of that. So yes, guest posting is great, but you are forever at the mercy of the website owner. It doesn't belong to you. So I would post first on your own website and get a really great collection of content going on there through blogging, and then do some guest posts, but that's not the be all and end all. What else? And the other thing about that, I wrote one for Psych Central about depression, and it was about psychospiritual depression. And when the article came back published, there was links all throughout to medical model explanations about depression. I just felt so pissed off because I thought, I don't even work to the medical model, and why is this person linking to some CBT article? I'm actually saying in the line above, CBT is not useful for this, and then all of a sudden there it appears linking to a CBT article. I actually felt like it made me look like an idiot, like I was, contradicting myself. So there's that when you guest post as well, and I actually wasn't aware of that until the post came back live, and I was like, I really don't like the way that's linked to that article over there, and you don't have any choice where they link to usually. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh yes, and so look, first and foremost, make your website full of rich and juicy content so that when the client lands there, they know they're in the right place. Every client that has reached out to me in the last 10 years has mentioned reading one of my articles. So one memorable sort of comment was that this client had read Women Who Love Too Much, and I had done a top 10 books for women or something, and that book was on the list. And so then when she Googled Women Who Love Too Much, Counsellor, Sydney, I came up first in the Google search, and then she reached out. And she said, I was so grateful that I found you because I've just read this book and it really spoke to me. So same thing when I did a post on A Star Is Born. So I reviewed A Star Is Born and wrote about narcissism. Lots of clients commented on that, and it was very timely because I went and saw that like the first 3 days it was out. I got home and I blogged about it straight away. So you need to be timely with some of these things as well. Without a doubt, the most popular is my mother and daughter blog, which was an interview with Clio magazine. It was the final in-print Clio a few years ago, and I would say 90% of my clients say to me, I read your article on the mother-daughter relationship. And that was actually her interview. She interviewed me and she didn't use half of it. So I thought, well, that took me days to write that interview response. So I'm going to make a blog out of it and I'm going to use it. So yeah, very, very useful. Very useful, because when the client reads that, they think, oh, this person gets me. This person gets me. Okay, so yeah, blogging regularly will bump you to the top of Google. If you keep at it, using the right keywords, it will bump you to the top of Google. And you need to be smart too, like there was a women's art exhibition up the road in North Curl from where I live. And I know North Curl art exhibition, lots of people are going to be Googling that this weekend. And so I wrote a blog about it. And so then I come up. Likewise, when Oprah came to Sydney, I blogged about when I meeting Oprah, and also going to Chicago and going to Harpo Studios. So when you Googled Oprah Sydney, guess who came up in the first 3 posts there? Yeah, so because I blogged about it a few times. Very useful, very useful. There's many more reasons why too. In my blogging prompts, there's a whole intro there around all the other useful benefits of blogging. And a blog isn't the be-all and end-all. So they should then form the basis for your social media posts. I made the mistake years ago of spending hours and hours and hours making social media posts that no one saw. They still don't see. What I should have been doing is writing more blogs and bumping my own website up, and then taking those and using them for my social media posts, and maybe even doing some reels on them and making them live and all those kind of things. So, but when you're a busy practice and a mum of 2 kids, there isn't enough hours in the day for all that. So yeah, look, I hope that's useful. Any other blogging questions, feel free to send them through. There's nothing I love talking about more than blogging, so send it through, and I'll put the link to the blogging prompts that you can purchase if you wish to do so, and the group for the live tomorrow. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.